My name is Carol Savage and I'm a writer based in Nottingham. I've been writing for 20 years and now I've turned my hand to writing screenplays. I work part-time for an agency called Nottingham Domestic Violence Forum, and they go into schools to educate children about domestic violence.
My name is Holly Lucas. I'm an actress currently working in Nottingham and London and all over really. And I got an agent when I was 17, moved to London and was acting in Holby City as a regular and Where the Heart Is, and I did a period drama for Channel 4 and just lots of bits and bobs along the way, and now I'm doing Terms of Love.
This young woman, she was a student, very bright, and she'd met this guy and he started out, and this is a typical example of how domestic violence happens. She started out, and this is why I feel so passionate, because we have such we don't understand what it is and how it happens. But he started out how he adored her. He loved her so much, he'd do anything for her. He just wanted to be with her all the time. And, you know, obviously she started to fall in love with him. And then he insisted on moving in with her. He couldn't bear to be without her. He moved into her home. And then the abuse started. And it started out by, and this is how it usually starts, by putting people down, making women feel stupid, trivialising them, criticising what they're saying, until they sort of lose their identity.
Terms of Love is about a girl who is a very strong character, very fun and vivacious and just enjoys life and her friends and having fun, and she has this boyfriend and they've been together about a year when we first see them in the film. But then he'd never been introduced to her friends, and when I'd been on this domestic violence training day, they said that there's always something that triggers this streak of violence off, and it might take a while for that to happen. Sometimes it's 5 years, sometimes it's on the honeymoon of someone's wedding. This lady told me about this thing that happened on the honeymoon and it just blew me away. But this was, her boyfriend actually kicks off when he meets her friends.
This particular short about a young woman rather than about a family woman was because domestic violence is very much on the increase. It is now happening, and listen to this for a statistic, it is now happening to 1 in 5 young women. And young women themselves often believe that it is right for her partner to treat her like this, hit her or put her down if she has stepped out of line, which interpret that as is not doing as she's told.
It's a really great film because it shows how someone so strong can actually be broken down into nothing, and a lot of the time people say, why do they stay with their partner? Why do they let this abuse happen? If that was me, I wouldn't let that happen. But that's you coming from a strong place, and she was strong, but gradually through kind of emotional manipulation and, you know, physical violence here and there, it actually, all of her defences just get broken down until a lot of these women probably feel they can't survive without that person in their life because that's what they've made them believe. And it's almost conditioning. They've been conditioned to, yeah, believe that they don't deserve any better.
During this time, the young woman whose name is Jess has been getting more and more insecure, intimidated, lost her identity, is starting to cut. So she's very, very unhappy. But at this point, she's got no ID. She feels part of him and she's frightened of him. And she feels like she can't get away. And rightly so, because with domestic violence, even when women try and leave, and this is part of the reason why they stay, there's lots of reasons why women stay, which we don't have time to go into. But fear is a huge thing because they know very well that they will come looking for them and there will be trouble.
I went on this domestic violence training day, which was just not what I expected it to be at all. It was so shocking. I think I almost cried within the first 5 minutes of being in there. It was really upsetting. And so the lady was like, so you're in this room, you're in a living room, what are the possible objects that you could use to hurt someone? Weapons. And she says a lot of the time when you ask someone that's been a sufferer of domestic violence, they go, oh, my boyfriend doesn't have any weapons. And they're like, we don't mean guns or knives, we mean things that could be used to hurt you.
We've already got support from Nottingham Domestic Violence Forum, but we're looking for support from any charities, agencies that deal with domestic violence. We're also looking for support from the public, people who may have been touched by what they've heard today.
In the Nottinghamshire area, domestic violence amongst young people, which is so relevant to what we're trying to show in this film, Terms of Love, is that the domestic violence among young couples or couples that have separated is on the increase. Like, repeat offenders will carry on abusing their partners even after all these implications that we're putting in place and these campaigns and things like that. So it just hits home how much more work we actually need to do around this cause. 2 women a week, on average, are killed by partners or former partners.
There are 13 million recorded incidents of domestic violence every year in this country.
Every minute in the UK, the police receive a phone call from the public for assistance for domestic violence. That is an estimated 1,300 calls a day.
Domestic violence costs this country £2.3 billion every year.
So 65% of women currently going through domestic violence cover it up. So when their boyfriends are burning them on their arms with their hair straighteners in the morning, they're actually choosing to wear long sleeve tops because they don't want anybody to see.
Domestic violence accounts for 16 to 24% of all reported violent crime.
So it's actually proven that children who suffer domestic violence, not even suffer it, are witnesses to domestic violence. So if their parents are having an argument or a bust-up and they're watching it, or even listening in the next room, they go on to have mental health problems, emotional problems, physical problems.
Domestic violence affects a quarter of women in their lifetime. 54% of reported rapes are done by the woman's current or former partner.
Only a minority of incidents are actually reported to the police. So how many more other types of violence are actually going unnoticed or unreported? The girl that's covering up her arm because she doesn't want anybody to know that her boyfriend's actually burning her. Or people that are being forced to drink bleach but are just saying they've got a cough or a cold because they don't want anybody to know about it. So these statistics that we have are only the ones that have actually been reported. How many more are actually going unnoticed? We would really appreciate if everybody could donate like the minimum of £10 towards sponsoring the funding of this film. It would get made. If 700 people gave a minimum of £10, we'd have the money done, and this message could be brought across. Hopefully this film will get shown in schools.
Through my work in a women's refuge, I heard the stories about the misery that women and children were put through, and I felt so compassionate towards them. I felt so sad for them, and I think this is why it's so important that we educate the public through, what better way than through film. And this is why it's so important that we get this money to make these films, to raise this awareness, to stop the violence, to stop the misery for women and children, and make a better society for us all.